In 1974, the radio felt unstoppable. Everywhere you went, car speakers, diners, living rooms, the same songs kept appearing. Some became timeless classics, others were just as huge, but slowly slipped out of memory. They dominated the charts. People knew every word, and for a brief moment they felt impossible to escape. Yet today, many of those hits have quietly faded into the background of music history. Here are 10 forgotten songs from 1974 that were once everywhere. Number 10, Rock Your Baby, George McCrae, 1974. In 1974, a slow, hypnotic groove quietly took over the radio. Rock Your Baby didn't sound like the rock hits dominating the early part of the decade. Instead, it leaned into something smoother, a relaxed rhythm, soft falsetto vocals, and a gentle, pulsing beat. The song was written by Harry Wayne Casey and Richard Finch, and it helped introduce a sound that would soon explode into full-blown disco. When George McCrae recorded it, the result was immediate. The track climbed to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became one of the defining hits of 1974, playing constantly on radio stations around the world. For a while, its laid-back groove seemed to be everywhere. Yet despite its massive success and influence on the rise of disco, Rock Your Baby isn't always the first song people remember from the decade, which makes it a perfect reminder of how even groundbreaking hits can slowly slip into the background of music history. Number 9, You Make Me Feel Brand New, The Stylistics, 1974.
I'll never find the words, my love.
In the early 1970s, few voices sounded as instantly recognizable as Russell Tompkins Jr. With its sweeping strings and delicate falsetto, You Make Me Feel Brand New became one of the most elegant soul ballads of the decade. Released in 1974, the song stood out for its sincerity. There was no dramatic storyline or clever twist, just a simple expression of gratitude and love.
My love.
At the time, that emotional clarity connected with millions of listeners. The song climbed the charts on both sides of the Atlantic and became a staple of romantic radio playlists. For a while, it seemed impossible to escape. But like many soft soul hits of the era, its presence slowly faded as musical trends shifted toward disco and harder rock.
To tell you how I feel, my love.
Today, You Make Me Feel Brand New remains a beautiful reminder of a moment when lush orchestration and pure falsetto emotion ruled the airwaves, even if the song itself isn't heard nearly as often anymore. Number 8, Beach Baby, The First Class, 1974. Few songs from 1974 captured nostalgia quite like Beach Baby. With its layered harmonies and shimmering production, the track sounded like a lost memory from the golden age of summer romance. Written by songwriter John Carter, the song was designed to echo the sunny spirit of the 1960s surf era. The arrangement feels warm and cinematic, almost like a postcard from another time.
Beach baby, give me your hand, give me some.
When it hit the radio, the song spread quickly across both the UK and the United States, climbing into the charts and becoming a familiar sound of the mid-70s airwaves. For a while, it was everywhere. But despite its success, Beach Baby slowly drifted out of everyday playlists as the decade moved on and musical trends changed. Today, the song feels like exactly what it was meant to be, a soft, nostalgic snapshot of summer, quietly fading into the distance like footprints in the sand. Number 7, Band on the Run, Paul McCartney and Wings, 1974.
Stuck inside these four walls.
By 1974, many people were still wondering what life after the Beatles would look like for Paul McCartney. Then came Band on the Run. The song felt ambitious from the start, shifting between multiple sections, moving from quiet reflection to full rock momentum. It sounded less like a single and more like a miniature journey. Lyrically, the track tells the story of escape. A band breaking free from control, running toward freedom.
If I ever get out of here.
When the song reached radio, it quickly became one of McCartney's biggest post-Beatles successes, climbing the charts and appearing constantly on playlists throughout 1974. For a while, It felt like the defining Wings anthem. Yet over time, the song has often lived in the shadow of McCartney's earlier Beatles catalog. Which is ironic, because Band on the Run remains one of the most adventurous and cinematic pop hits of the entire decade, a reminder of how the 1970s still allowed rock songs to feel like stories unfolding in motion. Number 6. Kung Fu Fighting, Carl Douglas, 1974.
Those kids were fast as lightning.
Few songs captured the strange pop culture moment of 1974 quite like Kung Fu Fighting. At the time, martial arts films, especially those starring Bruce Lee, were exploding in popularity around the world. Suddenly, Kung Fu had become part of everyday pop culture. Producer Bidoo and singer Carl Douglas quickly turned that craze into a song. Recorded almost as an afterthought during a studio session, the track combined disco rhythm with playful martial arts references.
Everybody was kung fu fighting.
What followed was unexpected. The song shot to number 1 in several countries and became one of the biggest hits of the year. For a while, it seemed impossible to escape, playing everywhere from radio stations to dance floors. Yet despite its massive success, Kung Fu Fighting eventually became one of those songs tied to a very specific moment in time. A global hit born from a passing cultural craze. And perhaps that's exactly why it still feels like such a perfect snapshot of 1974. Number 5. TSOP, The Sound of Philadelphia, MFSB Feat. The 3 Degrees, 1974. In 1974, a single instrumental track managed to define the sound of an entire city. TSOP, The Sound of Philadelphia, was created by legendary producers Kenneth Gamble and Leon Huff, architects of the smooth orchestral style that came to be known as Philadelphia soul. Built around lush strings, bright horns, and a driving groove, the song carried a polished elegance that immediately stood out on radio. Its reach expanded even further when it became the theme for the iconic TV show Soul Train, giving the track constant exposure across American households. For a time, it felt unavoidable. Remarkably, despite having almost no traditional lyrics, the song climbed to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Today, TSOP remains one of the defining sounds of 1970s soul, even if the title itself isn't always remembered as quickly as the groove. Number 4. Hooked on a Feeling, Blue Swede, 1974. By 1974, Hooked on a Feeling had already existed for several years. The song was originally written and recorded by Mark James, then later turned into a hit by B.J. Thomas in 1968. But when Swedish band Blue Swede recorded their version, they added something unusual. Right at the beginning came a strange, unforgettable chant. It sounded almost absurd, more like a playful tribal rhythm than a pop intro. Yet somehow it worked. The song exploded on American radio and climbed all the way to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming one of the most recognizable hits of the year. For a time, that bizarre opening chant was everywhere. But while the song still pops up in movies and nostalgia playlists today, many listeners forget just how huge the Blue Swede version was during the mid-1970s, a reminder that sometimes the strangest musical ideas end up creating the most memorable hits. Number 3. Seasons in the Sun, Terry Jacks, 1974.
Together we've climbed hills and trees.
Few songs from 1974 were as unavoidable as Seasons in the Sun. Soft, gentle, and almost deceptively cheerful, the melody sounded like a warm farewell between friends. But the story inside the song is far darker. Adapted from a Belgian composition by Jacques Brel, the lyrics describe a man saying goodbye to the people he loves because he knows his life is coming to an end.
By my friend, it's hard to die.
Despite the heavy subject, the song resonated deeply with listeners. Its simple melody and emotional sincerity helped push it to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, where it stayed for 3 weeks. For much of 1974, it seemed like the song was playing everywhere. Yet over time, its sentimental tone became almost too closely tied to its era, and the track slowly faded from everyday radio rotation. Still, Seasons in the Sun remains one of the most unusual chart toppers of the decade. a gentle pop hit built around the quiet acceptance of goodbye. Number 2, The Streak, Ray Stevens, 1974.
He gon' give us a peek.
In the spring of 1974, a bizarre trend swept across America. People began streaking, running naked through public places, sporting events, and college campuses, turning it into one of the strangest cultural crazes of the decade. Naturally, pop music responded. Ray Stevens, already known for his sharp sense of humor, captured the moment perfectly with The Streak. The song plays like a chaotic radio news report, with a confused announcer trying to describe streakers interrupting everyday life. "Don't look, Ethel!" The joke was simple, ridiculous, and completely in tune with the absurd spirit of the moment. And it worked. The song shot to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming one of the biggest hits of 1974 and dominating radio for weeks.
Oh, yes, they call him the street.
But like the streaking phenomenon itself, the song was tied to a very specific moment in time. Once the trend faded, the streak slowly slipped out of regular rotation, leaving behind one of the most unusual chart toppers the decade ever produced. Number 1. Billy, Don't Be a Hero, Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods, 1974.
His young and lovely fiancée.
In 1974, few songs were as impossible to escape as Billy, Don't Be a Hero. The track tells a simple but emotional story. A young soldier heads into battle while the woman he loves begs him not to risk his life.
Billy, don't be a hero.
Despite its tragic theme, the song was delivered with a bright, almost cheerful pop arrangement, a contrast that made it strangely memorable. At the time, audiences were still processing the long shadow of the Vietnam War, and the story quietly echoed the fear of losing loved ones to war. The song connected instantly. It shot to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became one of the defining hits of 1974, playing constantly on radio across the United States. For a brief moment, it felt like everyone knew the chorus. But as the decades passed, Billy, Don't Be a Hero slowly faded from everyday playlists, leaving behind a reminder of how quickly even the biggest songs can slip into the background of history.